His name is...
It's John Bondi. It is Saturday, the 3rd of May, and game 29 is beaten, and it is Saints Row on the Xbox 360. So I've never played the Saints Row series before. I know that some consider like 2 to be the best one, and then like 3 and 4 like it's enjoyable, but they changed the series, and then there was also the reboot, which then I think is kind of been forgotten. Anyway, so I've owned 2 on Steam for years, but I wanted to start with the first game, and I finally have. And right, my experience was soured quite a lot for a while because running off of this disc is scratched, and so it caused the game to freeze when going to different areas. And if you're sat in a car, the car would just disappear, and you just sat there, and it would still do the movements if you're trying to like use the analog stick to turn the car, but nothing would happen. Cars, if they hit you, will just disappear. And initially, it wasn't too bad. And I might have sometimes it would get past it and would load the data in. Other times, I might have to restart the game, and then it would carry on. As in, like if I got back, it would carry on. But then I got to a point near the end where, like, I was trying to do the last mission for the West Side Rollers, and then suddenly I could not proceed to the mission because when you're trying to go through the mission, you always hit the same point, and it would do that freezing and it would never end. Okay, we'll try to do some other missions and see if we can come back to this one and start having issues with some of the other areas of the game. And it came to the point of like, right. I tried to clean the disc, didn't work. I even tried a toothpaste trick, didn't work. So in the end, I used some of my Microsoft points and then bought the game off of the Xbox store. I mean, technically it didn't cost me anything, so I had the points and converted it to a voucher, but still. And yeah, and then because I'm still running it on 360, but there's a trick that you can still, like, if you buy games off the store, as long as they're 360 compatible, you can still download them. It's fine. You just can't buy them off the console. So anyway, yeah. So this disc will run, but because it doesn't let you do what Xbox One upwards do. Whereas if you put the disc in, it actually downloads the content. It doesn't do that. It has to run off the disc. But anyway, yeah, it's a fun game. You design your own character rather than having a set protagonist. So I made one that looks kind of like myself. I really should take a picture, but I didn't. A lot of fun characters, like, you know, Johnny Gats. Everyone knows him, but there's a reason why he's like considered like, you know, the face of the series. Didn't realise he was voiced by Daniel Day Kim. Don't know if he is the later entries, but he was in this one. Mina Kunis voices the character in this game. But yeah, and I also saw like Noah North's voice credit in there, and like other voices that you definitely recognise, but you may not place who they are. Missions, yeah, so the missions generally were either fun or okay, but the reason I didn't play GTA 4 for years is because I had this concern about like there being no checkpoints. And like starting a mission, then you have to like drive for minutes and then have to redo the mission just to try again. This game has that. This game really has that. And yeah, there are times I was very frustrated by the fact that I had to go and drive for several minutes to get back to where I was to actually start the mission proper. As in, like, you start the mission and it's like, drive from point A to point B. And point B is where all the shit goes down. So, do I recommend the game? Yeah, I would recommend the game. But if you have that freezing car thing, maybe get a new disc or get it resurfaced. But yeah. Other than that, oh yeah, top tip. So I said about that West Side Rollers, that last mission. With that, you need to have a very durable car, but also it would be helpful to have homies with you. Oh, sorry, in this game, as you go along, you can whistle to homies, other gang members, your gang members, to like join you, and they'll help you out. So what you want to do is get to the point where you can have 3 homies, and also you want to get an FBI SUV, and you can get those if you can get a 5-star wanted level. And if you want, one way to do it is if you go to do the the Red Gang, Los Canoles. Yeah, so when there's one of their missions called Noah's Plan. As part of it, you get a 5-star wanted level. And top tip for that mission is go to Forgive and Forget. That gets rid of your wanted level. That makes that mission so much easier when you have to transport a truck back. But if you don't get in the truck, once the timer goes for like protecting the truck, because you have to be outside of it, there's no timer and it doesn't force you into the truck. So you can actually drive off to the Forgive and Forget, clear your wanted level, come back, get in the truck and just drive to the end of the mission. But anyway, you can get an FBI SUV, go to the Forgive and Forget to get rid of your wanted level, then you can end the mission and you'll still be in the SUV. And then, like, so I put one in my garage, redid the Tony's Plan mission, got another FBI SUV, cancelled the mission again, went and did the last of the West Side Rollers missions with 3 homies, and did that first time. So great doing it that way. And then went and did the Tony's Plan mission and finally finished off that storyline. So some of the missions you do have to either use the Forgive and Forget just to make the missions doable, so you get rid of your wanted level, because there was the last one of the Vice Kings. When I first tried doing it, I would just be like, my car would be almost destroyed, and one time I did like the first part, and then it's like, okay, after that you then have to get to the next location, but the police is still after you, and my car like exploded, and the car is a requirement for the mission before I could do the next part. I was just like, anyway, so then I was like, Forgive, Forget. So while doing the part where you've got a guy hanging outside your car who you're trying to convince to spill the beans, was just to keep going through the Forgive and Forget. You have to keep going through because the police will notice that you have a guy hanging outside your car and will come after you. So you have to keep going through it, and then that makes that mission far more doable. So yes. Anyway, I've been talking apparently for like over 7 minutes, so we will leave it there. It is Wednesday, the 6th of May, and game 30 is finished, and it is Nocturnal on the PC. So, I've never heard of this game before, but the developers were giving it away for free on Steam over the course of a couple of days as like a promotion, because they got their second game coming out. And yeah, this is one that I beat within, 100% completed within about around 3 hours. And yeah, it's a 2D platformer, which I want to say kind of feels like blasphemous, but it is not a Metroidvania. It hasn't got that kind of gothic, kind of gory kind of look to it. It's just the way that you move around and like have to kind of parry, or you can get a parry ability, but things like that. But with this, whenever you find like a brazier, like you will like hit it and it'll set your sword of light, and then you have the ability to get some abilities with that. But then also you've got to kind of pass that flame on like other torches, because it only lasts for so long on your sword, so you need to kind of recharge it. And then you can also find upgrades, and yeah, it's fun. I would definitely recommend it. I got it for free, so I can't complain. But I definitely think it's worth checking out. I don't know how much it costs normally, but I'm guessing it's on consoles as well. But yeah, definitely worth checking out. So Nocturnal, if you like 2D platformers, give it a try. It is the Tuesday the 15th of May, and game 31 is finished, and it is Arise, a simple story, or a simple tale, on the PC. So it's a game that I picked up because James, aka Retro Import Gamer, actually recommended it over on his channel. He's played it recently. It was highly something figure other about it. So because it's a game that's all about its narrative. So at the very beginning of the game, it is your funeral. You're on a funeral pyre and someone's just lit it alight. Quite the intro. And then you go through over 10 chapters the life of this man, from boyhood all the way to being an old man. I was saying people were like, oh, it's a Viking game, they play as a Viking, but no, you do none of that kind of stuff. So, but it's kind of like that Norse kind of, he has that Norse kind of look. Anyway, but yeah, so it's a third person platformer, and the main mechanic is time. So use the right analog stick to move time forwards or backwards, and it will change the environment around you. So for example, snow could suddenly come up or go down. So the very first level, it will cause the snow to melt, raising the water. So that means that rafts that are like littered around, you could jump onto them and make the water rise to get to the next island. I had some issues with this. So for example, because you have no camera control, that meant that some of the platforming, you would end up jumping and missing your target because you weren't sure if you were aiming correctly, which is always fun in a 3D platformer. And also, some of the land masses, some of the platforms, whatever you want to call them, this is most egregious in the romance chapter where you're jumping from lead pad to lead pad. If you actually jump press the jump button when you think you're going to jump, or you should press it, it usually will mean that you've pressed it too late and you don't actually jump, you fall into the water and die. Yeah, our boy never learned to swim, sadly. So don't go in the water. So, and that was getting frustrating. As another thing as well is in chapter 9, where there's a bunch of bits of ice that you have to jump onto and then to carry on. They are very slippery, and I mean very slippery. But you can't take your time because you'll freeze to death. If you take too long, you will actually freeze to death. Even though you died. That's the thing. You could die over and over, but you're already dead. Anyway. So, I get that the game needs to be a game, but I kind of also felt that, these big emotional story beats were kind of being lessened a bit because of the fact that I'm going, rah, jump, which kind of is probably not what the developers intended. So, I mean, it's a very beautiful story, but I kind of feel like the gameplay lets it down, detracts from it. But anyway, on to the next game. It's Monday the 18th of May and game 32 is finished, and it is Sigma Star Story DX on the PC. So hopefully by the time this video comes out, we will have had the Club 52 stream, because this is actually the monthly game that was picked by Eddie, aka Roller X Core, and so we've been playing through it, and the main thoughts are on there. But I'll let you know that this is originally a Game Boy Advance game, which then had a re-release on the PC by Limited Run Games, put into their Carbon engine with some improvements and art gallery, yada yada yada. So it is a RPG / MUP. Yeah, so as you're going around the game, you don't really gain experience until you suddenly get into a random battle, and then you can gain experience within that, because when you're in the overworld, you have abilities to traverse the terrain and to fight the enemies around there, and then that can give you back health or give you bombs to use in the shmup sections. So the upgrades that you get while playing are only for the overworld, whereas the level ups only affect the shmup section. It might actually improve your health for both, but anyway. But yeah, because it's about a war between Earth and a planet called Krill. So, yeah, is it worth playing? The PC re-release definitely, because they've toned down the random encounters and massively improved the experience gain, so it's far less of a grind. But on the GBA original, what I've been hearing from Ross, aka Bohoho, it's like a lot more grindy to try and get to a good place. So, but also, there's 4 endings of this game, and if you want to see at least 2 of them, you can only do that within New Game Plus. And in New Game Plus, you get to keep all of the gun data, which is like different guns you can use for the shmup sections, but all the levels are gone, so you have to start leveling up again. So in the original GBA version, that's like a lot of faff to try and like work yourself back up again. But on the PC one, to get to the last save point before the final boss on New Game Plus, with 0 grinding and no exploration because I already had all the upgrades, it was about just over 4 hours. So, yeah. Right, that's it for now. It is Thursday the 28th of May and game 33 is finished. And it is Get Even on the PC. So this game I played because actually Phoebe Chicken asked me to play it. So for those who don't know, Phoebe Chicken is another YouTuber who also was stupidly kind enough to give me a 360 and then later a Dreamcast. So I think this is the very least I can do as payback. So because he's asked for like several tubers to like play the game twice, doing a stealth run, then a Rambo run, and then like give some feedback on it. So my proper thoughts I will do in a video for him, but just to say here, so I got this game for £2, you know, off a key website. So and I put a lot of hours into it, so I definitely got my money's worth from it. It's an FPS game. The game starts off with you trying to rescue a girl who's been kidnapped, and then next thing you know, you wake up in an insane asylum, an abandoned insane asylum, and then have to go and explore some memories. So I don't want to reveal any more than that because, you know, spoilers. So yeah, so Get Even, I definitely think it's worth playing, especially if you can get it cheap. So yeah. And I think actually, being the 28th is probably the last game, so I think I'll go say, hope you've had a good May, and I'll see you in June.